Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Student of the Game. I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game, and listen, if you're here, chances are you like talking sport, and we're glad you chose to do it with us here tonight. Thanks for coming back in. Apparently, the simulcast with the Earnestly Speaking podcast didn't scare you off. No, that was a fun time all the way around, too. Thanks to EJ Christian for helping me that week. I had a little bit of work to do covering the Orlando Magic for Fans First Sports Network. We already got two bells in here. Look at this, folks. Also, of course, if you've enjoyed the Duval Dive earlier tonight, special shout outs to Jamal St. Cyr for jumping in for the sick Travis D. Holmes of Big Cat Country. Fantastic job. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do on the Duval Dive YouTube channel. But enough of that. Let's get into this. Because we'll be talking NFL later and actually some NBA tonight. Donnie Dox, the Black and Gold Banneret, and a guy who's helped me cover the Orlando Magic in his own way with his NBA knowledge. Will jump on later. We'll talk a bit about his Cleveland Cavaliers and the excellent opening run to where they finally hit their first loss. But I've got to touch on college football. And I know that it was a hot button topic, and a room full of Irish fans attempted to raid me and explain why their team was worth a darn as far as their schedule and epically fail eventually. It was one of those things where they were forced to capitulate. And I know whoever hears me saying that is probably laughing, but my interpretation, and I was in a forum where it was me as the voice of reason battling a room. I'm expecting a text. It's fine. And if I don't get one, that's cool too. But the punchline's this, folks. The college football playoff rankings are a problem. Now, granted, I've had my issues with the top four, the 4-team college football playoff, but it was working. The biggest vote of confidence I've gotten from the college football playoff committee was excluding an undefeated FSU team last year. Why'd they do it? Their schedule sucked. Their starting quarterback was hurt. They weren't the team that they were. You got, fifth or sixth place? Fifth place it was. You were lucky to even get that, especially after what you showed us in your conference championship game. Now, why do I take the time to raid all of that? Is it to go after the Knowlers of the world and point out once again the ACC's a weak conference? Okay, partially, because I have fun doing that. But the reason why I take the time to point that out goes twofold. A, it shows the committee and the crimes they're committing currently. But B, and this is me talking to myself as well, there's still times for the crimes to be corrected. Now, here's the thing, and the reason why I get a little panicky is we live in a world where we have teams that are hiding behind weak schedules. Well, who do I mean? Just as an example, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame. Now, I already heard the great Joel Klatt. Well, Kyle, you're going to talk crap on Joel Klatt? I certainly am this week. He comes out and says, well, I'm not trying to defend their weak schedule, and then proceeds to make all these points defending their weak schedule. Now, really what it all boiled down to is he's saying that they're averaging 30 points of differential in each game, and I get that. That is an impressive stat. I'm not saying they're not a college football playoff team. However, should they be hosting a game? No. I get it that they got the shift. Can you dig it? Washington, Michigan, and Ohio State all on their schedule, and Washington and Michigan are not the old grade mules that they used to be, right? But that just happens sometimes. Dems to breaks. Now listen, make haters like me mute and win your Ohio State game, and I am powerless. Because as much as I know for a fact that the fraudulent Dillon Gabriel and the Oregon Ducks are frauds, if they stay undefeated, there's nothing I can say. Because the play on the field does also need to matter. That's something that the great Joel Klatt has gotten correct for the entirety that he has been a podcasting personality, period, point blank, end of story. Do I believe that Dillon Gabriel is also benefiting from an overrated Big Ten? You bet your entire keister. But what are we doing with Notre Dame, and what are we doing with Penn State? What has Penn State actually done other than accrue a quality loss? Okay? Can somebody give me something? Because when I look at the schedule, I see Wisconsin. Illinois. That's their competitive team. By the way, at number 25 when they don't belong in the top 25. But that's your signature win. We need to stop looking at what the signature, the quality loss is, and start looking at signature wins. Now, I already know what's going to come up. But Kyle, you mentioned Notre Dame is an issue. They beat Texas A&M. Here's the thing about that. And I do acknowledge that Texas A&M is a team I have to think about. My problem is I just don't know what to make of them yet. They're 15 for a reason. It's because the committee doesn't know what the hell to make of them yet either. But that's the win upon which the Notre Dame Fighting Irish hang their hat. But then when I point out that they've lost to a Northern Illinois that's a G5 team, but Kyle, that happened early in the season. Okay, so let me get this straight. When it's your signature win, that's a good win. I should respect it because it's the SEC, which we've said for many years, even before NIL, is the greatest college football that money can buy. But then you come out and tell me that Northern Illinois, by the way, shouts to Coach Tom Hammock, had a great time with him last time he was at the Cure Bowl. But when you tell me that's early in the season, it's okay, but your week one win is still what I'm supposed to be convinced by. What are we doing here? Now, I will maintain, for all the crap I do give the Irish and their 4 G5 school teams schedule, the worst crime is easily Penn State and Indiana. Sorry, Joel. Those are the facts of the case, and they should not be in dispute. When your strength of schedule has 3 digits on it in the rankings, it's a problem. I don't care if you've beaten all of the teams by 30 plus, 30.1 per game. Do something. Again, if they beat Ohio State, even if it's close, I have to shrug and say you're undefeated. I cannot touch you. Even if you play 12 straight crappy teams and somehow beat Oregon. God, I would love it. If they somehow beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship, all I can do is shrug and say, hey, you did it 12 straight times. You did something right. Good luck in the tournament. And then when you inevitably get shocked and beaten in your first playoff game, then I can feel further vindicated. But until such time as any of those things happen, the real point I'm trying to get to is this. The very thing we were trying to correct in the BSC of rewarding teams. No, I know they called it the BCS. I called it the BSC, and I said what I said. Thank you. But the one thing they're doing now is putting everything back into the college football playoff ranking that we were getting from the BSC, and that is rewarding teams behind weak schedules and weak conferences. I get it. They can't control the game they're scheduled. They can't control the strength of their conference at that time. But that's part of the ebb and flow. I keep hearing about how great parity is. At the end of the day, all you're going to really win is a higher seed and a bigger disappointment at the end of the season. And maybe that's the part I need to embrace in all my bitching and complaining about the college football playoff. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to matter for about 2 more weeks. Anyways, enough about college football. We'll touch on that, and we'll do NFL picks later. But for now, let me head to the NBA. I know I cover the NBA through the Orlando Magic more often than not. But listen, any NBA fan has to be impressed by the work of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And frankly, I need to understand better of how on earth 15-1 was even possible. And to do that, I had to look into the records. I had to look into the documents. And that's why I got my guy, Donnie Dox, and for you non-believers, the Black and Gold Banneret's own, Don Strouble. Welcome in, my man. Good to have you aboard the Student of the Game. What can I say? Have a good to have you, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, look at, he's already friggin' sirring me over here. I love it. No, listen, man, let's get into it. First of all, thanks again publicly for your help with the Orlando Magic when I'm busy covering the Jaguars for the Duval Dive and Fan First Sports Network. So that's awesome when you step in and do that. By the way, I know over Thanksgiving you'll be in the building at Kia Center for Magic and Bulls. But getting to your roots as a Cleveland Cavaliers guy, follower, tracker, whatever, what have you. 15-1. That means you're pretty good at basketball. I will grant you that. And I'm going to start with this, man. Listen, on this show, this is a pro Donovan Mitchell. This is a pro Donnie Mitch show, and I'm always pro Darius Garland. I know those are 2 pieces of the puzzle, but tell me, how in the hell Was 15-0 possible before going 15-1 against the defending champion Celtics?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I know I'm a Northeast Ohio native. I know that I might have bias, but I'm leaving bias at the door, Mr. Nash.
Nice.
And I'm going to tell you this through the perspective of analytic eyes. This is a team that right now, first in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating, first in net rating, first in three-point percentage. And it really comes down to three key things. It comes down to culture that has been built, and I will give a ton of credit to their previous coach, JB Bickerstaff, for helping pull them out of the mud in the post-LeBron era, in which
cool guy, by the way. Love talking to him after the playoff games.
Podium. JB is great. Very grateful for what he was able to do for the team, and I think that anyone in that locker room would express those same sentiments. However, it was time for a change. It was time for a change. He got them into a good position to where they could be a playoff team, but to take that next step and become a contender, they needed to bring in someone else. And who better for the job than one Kenny Atkinson, who very recently won a title as an assistant to Steve Kerr in Golden State, who beat those said Boston Celtics that ended Cleveland's undefeated streak last night. So you have the culture built by JB Bickerstaff. And then you have the continuity of the core four. You have Donovan Mitchell, who's in his third season with the team. Mm-hmm. Darius Garland, it feels like he's been there forever. Jarrett Allen has been there for several seasons, and the same with Evan Mobley. And they bought into all those guys. They extended 3 of those 4 just this past summer. And credit to Kobe Altman for not giving in to the Twitter mob and the very bullish Cleveland fans. You know, they can be up and down as much as you can go up and down on a team. They're a very traumatized fan base. But he bought into this core, and he didn't budge. He did not budge. And it really just came down to getting a new coaching staff and getting some fresh eyes in there to see, okay, we have the culture, we have the continuity in place with this core. What can we do offensively to make things better? And first of all, getting back a healthy Darius Garland last season was quite a struggle for him. Broken jaw. He lost a bunch of weight because of that, which coincidentally enough happened against Boston. He was trying to fight through a screen against Kristaps Porzingis when his jaw broke. So he missed a bunch of time with that. His grandmother passed away. So it was just a rough go for someone who is only in their early 20s. He's back now. He's healthy, and he's hooping like he was when he was named an all-star just a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, I know he's had good games here in Orlando. That's how I've grown to pay attention to him a bit as a guy that if he doesn't feed Donnie Mitch, he's definitely going to get a chance to get some points on his own.
Yeah, he's back to averaging over 20 a game, and he's the team's assist leader. He's truly been a floor general and a savvy scorer when that has been needed of him. But really what I think this comes down to in its entirety is they're finally unlocking Evan Mobley offensively, and he is reaching his true potential. We knew that this was a player that was a top 5 caliber defender in this league and a defensive player of the year candidate. This is someone who almost won Rookie of the Year, but there were questions about could he develop a perimeter game and could he clean up his post game and his handles and also bring the ball up the floor. Kenny Atkinson has put his trust in him to do that. I believe his usage rate is up to 24%. That's the highest it's been in his career. And when you have a big man who can bring the ball up and generate offense, something that people might not know if they haven't watched a lot of the Cavs is he's a very underrated facilitator. He can make some nice passes and really set up his teammates to convert on good looks. And I think that they're trying to get that out of him. And when you have to respect him, a lot of times they're running the 2 big man lineup with him and Jarrett Allen. But if it's just him on the floor, they can play 5 out. And then everybody has a chance to get quality looks. And Draymond Green said on his podcast after Cleveland destroyed Golden State a couple weeks ago, he said, these Cavaliers are serious, and I'm going to tell you why. That ball was humming so much, my head was spinning. He could not keep up with the ball movement. And we know despite all the controversy in his career, the decorated defender that Draymond Green has been. And
Yes.
he might not be in his prime anymore. He couldn't keep up with these guys. And he said as much. So I really think it just comes down to they have built the initial culture, but they are unlocking a new offensive culture and identity that is not solely reliant on hero ball from Donovan Mitchell. Oh, come save us late game. You can score 50 and we're still going to lose a playoff game. You know, we can't inbound the ball.
Somebody's bitter.
No, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. I've seen it all, and
Listen, I've sat in that very room and had to talk to Bickerstaff after that playoff game that you mentioned, buddy. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
exactly, and that's the thing is JB. He's very very good at culture building. He's a great defensive coach. I just don't think that he had the offensive prowess, so to speak, to really unlock this team. And there's a lot of questions. I mean, small backcourt, possibly an oversized front court. There's redundancies in their lineup, or at least that's what we thought. But through a 15-1 start, they have kind of proven that this can indeed work. Could they use a wing, a very quality wing? Sure. But you have role players like Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro playing a lot better because they have also been unlocked offensively to go along with their defensive capabilities. And they are missing last season, all season, they were missing someone who's been an absolute diamond in the rough in Ty Jerome, another former Golden State player. He's one of the leaders of the NBA in true shooting percentage at like 75%. He has just been absurd for them off the bench, which has been great in keeping the minutes down of Garland and Mitchell. I believe only 2 Cavs starters are averaging 30 or more minutes per game, Mitchell being one of them, which he's in the prime of his career. He's going to want to be out. He is still the face of the franchise.
Yes.
Despite the promising development of Mobley and Garland, that is the reason that you traded for this guy.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, newsflash: Donnie Mitch still good at basketball. Yeah.
still very good at basketball. Yes. So, if you're just tuning in last night and you watched that Boston game, you might have some reservations about Garland. It was by far his worst game of the season. He shot just 3 for 21. I think he just hit a wall. The Cavs are one of the teams that has played more games than anyone else so far in the NBA, and the consistency of their schedule. They have not had a 2-day off stretch yet. It's either been back-to-backs or single days off in between. And so it's going to happen, I mean, the good news is for this team is that when it looked like they were going to get blown out, they came crawling back and only lost by 1 possession. Because if they would have gotten blown out, then that would have maybe led to some question marks. But let's not forget, folks, it's November. Okay? Yes. We have months to go until we're at a point of the playoffs being right around the corner. And there's a lot that can happen. So it has been a great start. It's been great for the city. I know the fans are having a lot of fun, especially, and I'm sure we'll get to this in our NFL talks when we take our picks, the disaster that is the Cleveland Browns.
You're going to talk to me about disasters while I'm calling the Jacksonville Jaguars over here on the Duval Diet a team they beat in their house. With all due respect, Donnie Dox, and much love, of course, to the Barking Browns podcast, upon which I perform on occasion when they call for me. That's adorable. With that all being said, Mickey D's in the comments there. What's going on, man? Good to have you. Always good to see one of our regulars in the comments. Yes, make sure you follow the great Donnie Dox, Don Strouble over here. Let me take this direction there too, because you have elaborated to excellent extent to paint very vividly the picture of what got the Cavs to where they are. And I did this with Locked On Magic's Philip Rossman Wright the other day. You know this dude. Let me run it past you because he seemed to be confirmed with a lot of it as well. And if Phil is agreeing with you, you're already in a good place. But let me run it past you just to know what you think. Because here's where I'm at with the East. And listen, I didn't realize how correct I would be with the Sixers when I said they're not a threat for the playoffs because health continues to destroy them. I forget what year it was, but it was back when the Warriors were still looking dynastic for a minute. I said then that the Sixers should trade Embiid, not because I think Embiid is bad. Heavens no, I love watching him play. Newsflash, Joel Embiid, good at basketball.
Good basketball.
Not good at health.
No.
Right. So, and even then, in this day and age, it's hard for me to see a big man stay healthy. Now, that was before Nikola Jokic really rose and told Kyle, please hold beer, and then he proceeded to do what he did. And then, I think you can make an argument for the reemergence of Karl Anthony Towns almost. Because that's what's dragging down now the New York Knicks. See what I did there, right? That's called a segue, Donnie. Remember that. So I feel like with what's going on there and Tibbs being what he is, Brunson is an awesome player. I don't think he's enough on his own to overcome all the static there. So I'm not sure the Knicks are a big factor. The Magic are interesting because they're doing what they're doing, not at full strength. And when Paolo Banchero and Wendell Carter Jr. come back, that's going to be incredibly interesting. I think they're going to be in the mix. No, I'm not a homer. I just cover the team. Fans First Sports Network. So, and then there's the Pacers who have explosive offense. I don't know what to make of them yet, but beyond, those are the main players in my mind that I see. The Heat are too old, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to be a factor. The Bucks are still figuring it out. It's going to be Boston and one of, I think, two other, maybe three other teams, if you believe in the Pacers, and that's the Cavs and the Magic. Am I out of my gourd?
I don't think you are. I think that we're at a point where the old guard, so to speak, is being phased out. He
says as the Boston Celtics are a big team.
Well, okay, well, Boston,
I know what you mean, but it's still funny. It's not the same Boston team. No, you're 100% right.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah, but the consistency of Boston will forever be in place. I mean, they are, in terms of titles, the winningest team in this league. I think it's one of those things where Philly. I remember years ago, almost a decade at this point, when they first drafted Embiid, when much like Cleveland, Philly was in the gutter. I mean, this was a 10-win team. They were just in a bad.
Andrew Bynum, trust the process, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. And so they get Embiid. He turns into an absolute superstar. And they try to build on that by drafting an excellent player, a star in his own right, Tyrese Maxey.
Yes.
And then they go in this free agency, and I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit quickly here, but they go and get a Paul George. Well, that's a good free agency, but what you had to understand with Paul is now you're pairing him with a guy in Embiid where health, it's really, really shaky there. They're both kind of a house of cards.
As I say, you guys just brought together two players that are regularly on the backs of the milk carton during the postseason, and then expect to make a run.
Yeah,
not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. And the health of their locker room, from what I was reading, is starting to take a hit. And this is just in terms of Philly. I haven't even gotten to the other teams yet. I saw that Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid to say, "Oh, you're always late. This, that, the other." So they are going through it mentally and physically right now.
That's not even to bring up where Joel Embiid's talking about, I don't know if I'm going to play back-to-backs anymore, right? That whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically, I think the only other player that is more injured than him is Kawhi Leonard. But that's a whole different.
That's a great call. I didn't even think of that. That's a good call. Maybe Durant, who, by the way, I bring that up because out west, maybe you aren't hurt as you are often as you are as Joel Embiid, but it's a lot more glaring where the race is tighter out west, right?
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And that's the thing. I think that we saw the Clippers, they go and they get two stars, two excellent wings in Leonard and George, and they think they're going to make a title run. It didn't happen. Well, now I think that the Clippers problem is now going to turn into Philly's problem, as if it hasn't been already, but now even more so, because if Maxey is going to start to rack up injuries, you could very well be in a position that this is a long season, Kyle. When it comes time for the playoffs, all three of your stars could be down. And that is not a place you want to be in. So, yeah, I agree with you. Philly, I think at most possibly a first round exit. I think the Bucks, I don't think Damian Lillard's happy to be there. I don't think he's ever been happy to be there. He wanted to go to South Beach and help Jimmy. He wanted to be in that city. And he has said as much in interviews. He said, I just go to practice. I come home. I watch boxing. I play video games. That is the sound of a depressed man that is not in the destination he was hoping he was going to be. So
you're not wrong, buddy.
The chemistry issues exist there. Plus, that's a team that's getting old as well. You look at a Brook Lopez, who's been incredibly impactful. He's getting up there in age.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's still in the league. Wow, good for him.
Yeah,
I'm not even being sarcastic. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, he's an excellent 3-and-D threat, but he's getting up there. You look at like a Bobby Portis, same thing. They're just in a position where they had a really nice run. They were able to capitalize with a ring. Let's not forget, Joel Embiid has not even been to a conference finals yet. He is yet to make it past the second round.
That's a great point.
So the Bucks have done their thing, and I think for the core players that were there on that title team, maybe I don't want to call it a championship hangover because we're talking 3 years ago at this point. I mean, they won in the COVID year of 2021. This is a team that I think they're just riddled with chemistry problems, and their stars aren't exactly happy. So, I look at, the Knicks as well. Great roster, star-studded lineup. This is the most star power they've had in my lifetime, it feels like. But Tibbs, he has a ceiling, and we've seen that ceiling. He can get you to a point, but he's never been to the mountaintop, and he's certainly never conquered it.
This is what people don't appreciate about Larry Brown in the day. He could be that guy to lift you and get you there, but people want to try to tell me about Zen Masters as GOAT coaches of all time. Anyways, let's transition to this. Let's go out west for a minute.
Okay.
I don't think a team in the city of LA is in the top 5 teams out west at all. I don't think a team out of Phoenix is in the top 5 when it's all said and done. I think we see a world where and this is what makes the West hard, man, because there's been so many changes. I think Cat was a big part of the success in Minnesota. He's gone. I think we keep talking about aging teams. I don't think the Warriors are all that. Here's my problem, Don, and this is what I need from you. I am the student of the game tonight. I'm going to learn some stuff. I can't accept the fact that the Sacramento Kings are a relevant team in the NBA nowadays. Where do you have them at? What are you thinking with them? And I obviously need to get in front of a TV and watch them a little more because people keep telling me they're good at basketball.
2 words for you. De'Aaron Fox.
Of course.
This guy has been on a historic tear. Over 3 games last week, he was averaging nearly 45 a game. He is an absolute bona fide bucket, and there is no disputing that. And then you pair him with a Domantas Sabonis, who has been an excellent, consistent player. Maybe not the best big man in the league, but in the conversation of top 5 best big men in the league.
See, that's a very Sabonis trait in you that you just described there, having watched his dad play.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't there to watch his dad play, but seeing Domantas play, I mean, his time with the Pacers, he was great. And now, they capitalized off of that Halliburton trade. I think that it was a win-win for both teams, but he has been great. You look at all of these different pieces for them, and then they're coached by former Cavalier coach Mike Brown, who is a solid coach in his own right. And I think it's one of those things where you're in a state that is so dominated by the LA market and in the past decade, the Warriors, that you often get forgotten about. I mean, we're talking about a Sacramento team. It took them years and years and years just to start making the playoffs. And so they're kind of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Orlando Magic, looked at as a small market, maybe not quite as respected as they should be, but it's
You know,
one of
your game 7 is on NBA TV, for example.
your game
right?
7 where those said Warriors and Steph Curry is dropping a 50 piece on your head. Yeah.
Right.
They are going to have to make strides to prove to themselves, because just like Cleveland, if they would have lost that game 7 to the Magic and got bounced out for the second year in a row in the first round,
It would have been blown up.
Oh, it would have been bedlam, and not in
Yeah.
a good way. It
Right.
would have been a 5-alarm fire crazy town. And, you know, so I think that the Kings are in a position like that where they're kind of at this crossroads of how seriously are people going to take us, and what do we have to do to translate our play to see a playoff series win at the very least, because you don't want to waste the prime of someone as great as De'Aaron Fox.
Give me a range of where you think they'll be seated. From this at the highest, this at the lowest. Like,
Yeah.
you don't see them missing the playoffs, dude.
Oh, no. I
Okay.
think that, you know, we still have so much time left.
I know it's a marathon, not a sprint, but don't sit on the fence, Donnie Dox. You can reserve the right to come back on the show and correct something if you see it.
7.
7. Okay, so is that the low point? Is that the high point? Give me a range.
Yeah, I think that they are going to be a borderline play-in team. I think maybe
Okay.
6, maybe they'll avoid the play-in. But I think it's one of those
6 to 10.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't put them as far back as 10. I
Okay.
would say if health holds, 6 to 7, worst case.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Because
maybe you do, maybe don't. Okay.
I think that they will start to beat some teams, but I mean, you have to look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are back. I mean,
They're pretty
Sam
awesome.
Presti has been the master of the long game. He did not shed tears when he lost Durant. He did not shed tears when he lost Paul George, and he did not shed tears when he lost hometown favorite Russell Westbrook. What he did was just continue to stock that cabinet full of draft picks. And look at what he did with, look at what it's turned into with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Even though the Clippers drafted him initially, look at the all-star that he's turned into, as well as Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, all those guys. I mean, they are fantastic.
What I hear you telling me is this is the epitome of addition by subtraction. And I get that. I think all the guys that you just mentioned were pushed out the door at the right time. Last one about the West, then we'll jump to the NFL. Is it time to take Wemby seriously? Because for me, and granted, this goes outside your Ainge raids, I actually had personally watched games with the new Manute Bol. And the problem with doing that here in Orlando is because it was in the days when Shaq was here. You don't put Manute on Shaq because it will end Manute. Bol was going to get crushed. He's too wiry a dude. Something would go dramatically and just horribly wrong. It was for your own protection, Mr. Bol, okay?
Yeah.
So I say all that to say this. Wemby, when he was in town last, gave me that Manute Bol thing as a rookie where I'm like, okay, you're really big. But I saw Franz Wagner reject you. Like, what are we doing here? So he's improved from that is what I'm seeing, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you look at a guy who in his rookie season, we keep hearing about who's going to be the next face of the league, It's increasingly becoming an international league, with stars like Luka and now Wemby. Wemby's serious, man. I mean, that his frame, it's hard to put muscle on a 7'4" frame or however tall he is.
It really is.
But I think that's one of those things where the longer he's in the league, similar to Chet Holmgren, depending on how seriously he takes his conditioning, he's going to build up that strength. Are we ever going to see another big man as strong and dominant down low as Big Diesel? Hell no. I don't think it's going to happen. Firstly, I think the game has moved away from that. But, so I understand your comparison with Manute Bol, but I think that we are in a different game where, yes, Wemby can easily achieve greatness playing a stretch 5 position and just blocking shots simply with his length. I mean, look at the 50 piece he put up last week, Kyle Nash. I mean,
yeah, no, that was impressive.
And
I'm not looking to cheapen that, right?
No, and now he has a legitimate floor general in Chris Paul to help elevate his game even more. So as long as CP3 stays healthy, we're going to see an even better version of Victor Wembanyama this year. And this all to say Greg Popovich, it came out last week, a report, he suffered a mild stroke.
Yes.
I mean, this is a guy who has been the big man whisperer throughout his career. Now, some critics out there, myself included, might say that the game has moved past him a little bit in the new offensive, shoot the deep shots and play defense kind of game that the Warriors first started and that the league has moved to. It's all about perimeter, it seems like. But he has, without a doubt, been the big man whisperer. You look at David Robinson to Tim Duncan and now Wemby. This was the team for him to go to. And I truly believe, I don't know if he will ever win a title in West Texas, but this was the guy to put the San Antonio Spurs back on the map. And I think he is going to be getting hypothetical Hall of Fame votes long before his career is over.
Hell, he got hypothetical Hall of Fame votes before he got damn drafted. But
yeah.
Then I would say this, and listen, you always question the older coaches when they actually get that old, about whether the game's passed them by. But I would submit that Wemby is forcing Pop to learn the game simply because you have to make him successful.
You do.
And B, my question will be this: Spurs is a playoff team. What do you think?
Yeah, if CP3 stays healthy, I think that they have enough continuity in their squad and they have enough that they're getting from their role players that if you have a healthy Chris Paul and you have a healthy Wemby, those two are going to get you enough games. Now, I think here you go. I'll give you something. They will be a play-in team that upsets someone to solidify their playoff standing.
Okay.
That's my little hot take prediction here before the Thanksgiving week, 5 months before we should even truly be having this conversation. But I think that with health, they will at least sneak into a play-in. They will take someone's lunch and ruin their day, and they will sneak into the playoffs.
I'll say this. Here's the hot take I'll make, because to your point, I set up the question about my last year's observation as to whether Wemby's improved. From what little I've seen, I agree. I think he has. I think he's going to suffer from the Westbrook paradigm, being he's going to be so much of an individual that his ability to actually play championship basketball is going to be hindered. He's going to need, in other words, the stat I need to see from him in year 3 that needs to improve, assists. He needs to become more like Joker if he's ever going to be a champion.
Yeah, that's fair. And you look at Joker's team. I mean, Jamal Murray is a stud, no doubt about that. But Joker didn't exactly have this world-beating, crazy, insane roster. In fact, he had former Orlando Magic player Aaron Gordon as a key player on his team.
And also current Orlando Magic player Kentavious
Caldwell.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah, my point exactly. So I think that Joker, in his immense success, erased the narrative that you need a super team to win it all. Because let's be honest, there hasn't been a super team. The only 2 super teams, 3 in my lifetime that have done it were the very first ones to do the big 3 in Garnett, Allen, and Paul Pierce. And they only got one.
No, sir, hold on. On this show, I can't let that happen. We're not counting what the Bulls did as a big 3. What are we doing?
Yes.
You're not going to tell me that Jordan, Pippen, and Grant, and then Jordan, Pippen, I would have said Kukoc, but people are going to feed you, Rodman, were another big 3. We're not having that conversation?
No, but you missed the key point.
I'm sorry. Your lifetime, I know, but I'm doing my job as an old man to let you know that that was a thing.
Oh, no, yes, and trust me. I mean, The Last Dance, that was, watching that over COVID, just chills down my spine the whole time. That was as dynastic as a team can be. I don't think anyone is going to touch the 90s Bulls anytime soon, maybe ever. I don't see anyone going on that kind of run. The Warriors were close, but again, they lost a couple. So no one's going 6-0. No one's doing that ever again. Not in your lifetime, probably not in mine either. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But yeah, no, I think that
if I'm wrong, I'd love to see it. That's right.
Yeah, for real. Seriously. beyond those Celtics of 2008, you had the Heatles, and then you had the Warriors. And some people would say, oh, well, maybe the Cavs, but Kyrie and Kevin Love were never healthy enough to make it a super team. But I think it's one of those things where, yeah, Wemby will need to improve those parts of those games. But let's not forget here, Nash, this is year 2, and we're already seeing these flashes.
We're November in year 2. That's correct.
Not even the end of his sophomore season. And so, I would have to see, I believe it's still R.C. Buford that is the general manager in San Antonio, and he has been a great one. But he did let Kawhi Leonard walk in his prime. They did try to keep him, but did they try hard enough? And you do not want to be in a situation a few years from now where you are going to lose Victor Wembanyama on his rookie contract. This is someone that you want to make a centerpiece of the franchise. Now, I will say these international guys, they don't seem to be as
they're not divas like Kwame, or I was about to say Kwame Brown.
Poor Kwame Brown catching strays.
I didn't mean Kwame, dang it. I meant Kawhi Leonard, damn it.
Yeah.
He's not a diva like Kawhi Leonard is. I don't think that's a thing.
Well, this is an entirely different conversation, but, we could talk about, it would have been better for him to stay in Toronto, and holy hell, did the Raptors get as lucky as any team could be, given how Kawhi's health has been since then. They got him for a full playoff run and capitalized on a title in year 1.
So what I hear you telling me is that Kawhi Leonard was healthiest when his coach was named Nurse?
That's a good one. You should get out your ball.
Let's go to the NFL, Donnie Dox.
Yeah, let's go to the NFL. I put this all away to say Victor Wembanyama is great. He's going to be great. The West will be scary. It'll pan out. We'll see what happens with the East, and hopefully we can talk about this on another show more in depth.
We should be so lucky. Like you said, there's a lot of NBA season left, man. I'm going to have to fill time at some point after February.
Oh, yeah. Now, we've got plenty of time to do it. Let's revisit in the spring, when we have a better picture.
With all that, hey, listen, you had fun playing the game with me, so to speak. We'll work with that later. Anyways, it's that time. Let's head into NFL picks. Get that off the ground. So, Donnie Dox, as we continue the season that I and many of my friends, be it on Earnestly Speaking or Huddle Up, the Hold My Beer season, or the Don't Do Meth season, or you smoke crack, don't you? Various sound bites from movie lore to describe the season. We move on dauntlessly to head into Week 12 picks. The joyous thing I can tell you is, even though I preside over the Duval Dive, I'm glad I don't have to pick the Jags this week. With that in mind, Thursday night, the Pittsburgh Steelers head to Cleveland to battle the Browns. Donnie Dox, who you got?
Oh, man. Well, those Browns are hapless, aren't they? I mean, they finally put a quarterback on the field that could throw for 300-plus yards, but at the end of the day, it is still Jameis Winston. This is a team that has had their culture destroyed. They have no sense of direction, and I highlight that word, triple underline, hapless Browns. They're going down. They're not going to dominate or even produce in any form against that Pittsburgh defense. Russell Wilson has found his stride. Mike Williams seems to be a late season factor for them. If he can stay healthy, that's Pittsburgh all the way.
Say what you will about Russell Carrington Wilson there, my friend, but TJ Watt, MVP candidate, will help.
Fantastic player.
Pittsburgh Steelers bring that victory on Thursday night. The Vikings battle Bears. Donnie Dox, is there hope?
It's such a great preseason for the Bears. I've seen all these excellent offensive pieces come together. I was like, my goodness, that front office is rolling. You go get Keenan Allen, you draft Rome Odunze, you get Caleb Williams, all these guys. I think that at the end of the day, and I'm going to throw some shade here, they're still coached by Matt Eberflus.
Bro, hey, listen, on this show, it's okay. I was calling him to get fired in the offseason. It's fine.
We have moved away from, and not to sound like a parrot to the Colin Cowherd, but we have moved away from the era of defensive coaches really making an impact in this league, and he is one of them that needs to go. Caleb Williams is being hampered by this coaching staff, and this has increasingly become a less developmental league for quarterbacks, but he is one of the players. There's a reason he went first overall. But to get to the point, I digress. I'm going with Minnesota and Sam Darnold. Kevin O'Connell has them absolutely rolling right now. Justin Jefferson's going to keep doing his thing. I'm going with the Vikings.
Yeah, no, Vikings are the smart play here, and say what you will about Colin Cowherd. You bring him up. I think the problem is that there's too much vegetarianism in Chicago that I would expect from Colin Cowherd, but the thing is, they don't have enough beef. Yeah, see, that's an O-line reference there, Donnie Dox. The Detroit Lions head over to Indy to battle we don't have to talk about that. Lions, okay. The Pats head over to Miami to do battle with our friend Eric Lopez's hapless Miami Dolphins. They're actually talking about firing Mike McDaniel. All this time I spent saying that he's Mike McDaniel, not Josh McDaniels, because the S stands for sucks. But apparently they're talking about firing Mike McDaniel. That's a whole thing. I don't know. But yeah. Who you got there, buddy?
Settle down, South Beach. Jesus Christ. All right. This is a great young offensive mind. Would you rather have back Brian Flores, who, by the way, is doing a great job defensively for the Minnesota Vikings?
I think he's incredibly hireable if it weren't for the action he had against the Shield. I had a little conversation on the Duvall Dive with Jamal St. Cyr about him. So we'll just throw that out there. But go ahead, Donnie Dox.
I think that, a healthy Tua is going to do his thing as long as he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to throw to. This is a New England team that once again is struggling. Gerard Mayo is going to have to figure it out as a defensive coach. Drake May's starting, Jacoby Brissett. Who's out there? I haven't really followed as much Patriots football as one might think.
Yeah, I don't know. Gerard Mayo, the force be with you. Mayo on my sandwich, whatever. Dolphins by 1,000,000. Yeah. Tampa heads over. Okay, the Bucks are beating the Giants. Let's move on.
Yeah, come on, Tom DeVito.
What are we doing here? By the way, for those idiots out there that still think that Danny Dimes was still the right play, you look foolish now. That's all I'm throwing out there.
Draft quarterbacks from Duke. Draft basketball players from Duke.
Damn, Donnie Dox on a tear. The Dallas Cowboys head over to the DMV to battle the Washington Commanders. Donnie Dox, who you got?
Do we have to do this one? Come on, man. Jaden Daniels is cooking. Cliff Kingsbury's got that offense on a tear. My man, former Ohio State receiver Terry McLaurin doing his thing.
Scary Terry, yes.
Yeah, this Dallas team with the loss of Prescott, they've had other various injuries. Jerry Jones is still delusional. I'm taking the line. I think is Washington being picked by 7 or 10?
10.
Yeah, I'm taking that.
Yeah, I'm going to say the overs. No, the only reason I'm not going to say the overs of play here is because the Red Tails will go as far as Jaden Daniels' bruised ribs will take them. I know he yeeted a ball for a Hail Mary, but yeah, they still win this game. I do think that the Red Tails are in play. I want to see the rematch of the Commanders replayed with the Eagles, because Thursday night after a Steelers game was definitely advantage Eagles. I picked as much last week and was absolutely correct with Ernest C.J. Christian of Earnestly Speaking. So yeah, I think the Red Tails do get this one back. The Kansas City Chiefs head to Carolina. No, we're not bothering. Yeah, and after they lost last week,
they're going to be pissed. Yeah, they're playing
exactly.
Pissed, so.
Carolina Panthers, Black Panthers, Florida Panthers, chefs by 1,000,000.
Yeah.
The Tennessee. I'm actually curious about. No, I'm not. The Tennessee Titans and the Texans. Yeah.
Will Levis, 8 touchdowns, 8 picks, one of the worst young quarterbacks in the league. And I know that C.J. Stroud has not exactly been a world beater, but he also lost Stephon friggin' Diggs for the season. Okay, but he is still
again more vegetarianism issues. that are really causing the problem here. But yet suddenly Texans fans that were criticizing Trevor Lawrence are shockingly quiet, Donnie Dox. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is
Anyway,
interesting how the AFC South works.
yes, new here. Welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah,
you're old
for
enough.
real.
You're old enough for that movie. There you go.
Yeah.
The Denver Broncos do battle with the Las Vegas. I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Yeah.
Whatever. What do you got, Donnie Dox?
I think Bo Nix has just been playing better and better. I will take Sean Payton every day and tomorrow. Sorry to Mr. Antonio out there in Vegas. Sean Payton is the better coach. He will continue to be the better coach. I love the receiving core and the skill position players of the Denver Broncos. Yeah, I'm taking them. I'm sorry. Las Vegas has been a tire fire for years, and they're going to continue to be unless something changes drastically, which is not going to be this season.
Of all the cores of skill players that I never expected to hear the word love beside, it would be the Denver Broncos. And I have the Irish NFL shows Colin Cronin on a regular basis as the ultimate Broncos fan. I was present for when he met Patrick Surtain. Watching that dude freeze for a good 15 seconds before acknowledging a greeting was kind of adorable. Anyways, I say all of that to say, if you are hating Peyton, you're still a fool for nixing Bo. I too have the Denver Broncos. The San Francisco 49ers head over to the alleged tundra of Green Bay, Wisconsin at Lambeau Field to battle the Packers. Donnie Dox, what you got?
Sorry to do this to you, Kyle. Love is in the air, baby. Love is in the air. I got to go with these Packers. I think that what Matt LaFleur has been doing has been great. He's definitely a coach of the year candidate.
Correct.
Jordan has grown exponentially. It's still so crazy to me that this kid was being labeled as a potential bust just last season, and the turnaround that he had mid-season all the way into the playoffs. And now, I mean, it's been excellent. Going from a guy who looked like he might have been cut to getting a contract extension well into the high scale. And then you got their skill position players, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, all these guys out there on the edge making plays, or not the edge, excuse me, but at the wideout positions. And then you have Josh Jacobs running the ball. He's still healthy, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, he is
still
healthy.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, they have done what they've needed to do. I think that the defense needs some work. I don't know if Jair Alexander is still the same guy that he used to be, but these 49ers are struggling. They are struggling right now. Kyle Shanahan might be glued to his playbook. I don't want to get into an argument with you. I'm taking the Packers.
What is there to argue about? What you don't understand is I'm in that phase of anger that's called acceptance. Listen, I'm on record on the Huddle Up podcast declaring that the Niners are cooked. And trust me, my fellow 49er faithful will tell me, well, they've been down early before. Even if they were to win this football game, I still don't think they can win the West right now because there's just too much going on. I may not love what Jordan is doing, but I don't appreciate the Niners and their lack of discipline and consistency and needing Fred Warner to bail them out every damn week to be the answer to this team. This season is the wake-up call. They need to come back and get San Francisco next year when the Chiefs have further fallen off and aren't threatening for another Super Bowl because they already got their three-peat and Travis Michael Kelce retires. I'm sorry, it's better for America this way.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Kyle. I know your pain in watching a team that you love lose 3 championships. I know that they were close with Harbaugh and then these 2 times to the Chiefs. I mean, I've had to watch it with Cleveland and the Warriors. I know it's a totally different sport. Just know that you have my sympathies, my friend.
I don't need your sympathies. We were this close. The Niners were this close to beating Patrick LeVon Mahomes II in what was actually the longest Super Bowl in history and should have been the first one with overtime if it weren't for the Atlanta Falcons letting what happened happen. So you don't need to show me your sympathy for the most recent Super Bowl. The one before, okay, I'm still kind of pissed off at 3rd and 21. Let's call a spade a spade. Anyways.
Run, Emmanuel, run.
By the way, as a side note, don't get me started on Jimmy Smith performing an act that he would need to register on a list for to Michael Crabtree in the end zone, and nobody wants to talk about that. Anyways, hashtag Harbaugh Bowl. Yeah, I too have the Packers, be that as it may, even with them giving up 2 points. Yeah, the Niners aren't covering that spread. What are we doing here? The Arizona Cardinals versus the Seattle Seahawks. Let's test your NFC West knowledge, Donnie Dox. What do you think?
This is a tough one considering, and these are two teams that I think are a little more equal than they look. I really do think it's going to come down to quarterback play, especially since Noah Fant is questionable. He is a key player in that Seattle Seahawks offense, despite having Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I do believe that Kyler Murray is the better QB than Geno. I'm going to go Arizona on this one. I think they're having a very, very nice season. You know, Marvin Harrison shows up, Money Marv. I'm going to go Arizona. I don't know what the line is, so I'm going to insert my own line. I'm going to say they win by a field goal.
It's so close that they're having Arizona giving up only 1 point as the road team. So I'll say all that to say this. You say it's pretty close. My response to you is, gee, no. Kyler Murray is the superior quarterback, and unless he played a little too much Xbox and makes a lot of mistakes, I don't think this game's close. I think Arizona wins by at least a touchdown here. The Seattle defense does not impress me, and they just got done sneaking by a Niner team that probably should have beaten them as well. If the Seahawks want me to take them seriously again, win this game, it starts there to cause that 6-4 tie in the NFC West. I have the Cardinals on the road, the Eagles, and the LA Rams. Donnie Dox.
I'm going with the Rams on this one. I think they're playing pissed. I think that they are in a very muddied NFC West. They're in a situation maybe that they thought that they wouldn't be in. Matt Stafford knows that his years are limited, and he wants to get back to January football. And I think that Nick Sirianni could find a way to screw this up for Philly, despite that excellent offense. Oh, my God, that Saquon Barkley acquisition has just been fantastic for them. And as long as he's healthy, they will.
Thank you, Giants.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry to Jeff Sheridan once again out there.
No. He thinks that Saquon Barkley needed to go. No apologies to Jeff Sheridan.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then, well, you snooze, you lose, buddy. No, I'm taking the Rams in an upset here. I know that Philly's been on a heater, but I think that these Rams are still sneaky good. You know, they've got, again, love the skill position players. Cooper Kupp, he struggled with injuries, but it seems like his successor is already there in Puka Nacua. Yeah. Sean McVay is a mastermind. This is clearly a coaching mismatch. You talk about the quarterback mismatch in the Arizona and Seattle game with Geno and Kyler. I'm sorry, Sean McVay by a mile over Nick Sirianni. Sirianni has been exposed since Shane Steichen left.
I hear everything you're saying about the coaching battle, but they also said the same thing about General Cornwallis and George Washington. Give me the Eagles. It's very, very simple here. Give the ball to Saquon. You don't need to do anything else. And I get it. You don't have Jason Kelce at center anymore. That's fine. They also don't have Aaron Charles Donald. That defense is not a fraction of what they used to be. And if they run the football and keep this great duo of wide receivers, if they're healthy, off the field, it's a moot point. Give me the Eagles on the road in Los Angeles. And, of course, the final game Monday night, the Baltimore Ravens do battle with the Los Angeles Chargers, the scarier Los Angeles team, it would appear so far, at least, in the NFL. Donnie, what you got?
You know, as a kid growing up, I was a Chargers fan, but I'm not going to lean on that childhood bias. I think that Baltimore, they're in a position where they just need to stick to their damn identity, man. Stop asking Lamar Jackson to throw 30-plus times a game, especially when you went and got Derrick Henry. Just run the ball. I am excited, very excited to see the Battle of the Brothers once again, albeit not on the same grand Super Bowl stage, but we are getting late into the season. These teams have similar records, and they are both in the AFC, and so they are going to be competing.
Playoff implication, you're not wrong.
Exactly. I'm going to have to go with Baltimore on this one, while I think that the culture has shifted in Los Angeles with the arrival of Jim. They just don't have quite as many nice pieces to go up against a Baltimore team like this. I did see Khalil Mack, I believe, is questionable.
This is new.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point, but it would help to have him out there. So
Sure.
once again, Justin Herbert, what are you going to do for us tonight?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'll put it this way: fresh off of playing the Steelers, you gotta wonder. And whatever sick bastard put this game the Monday before Thanksgiving. Good God, are you trying to tear a family apart?
Rude,
Good. Rude. Yeah, exactly. You got to think that I'm pointing out some intangibles here with the Steelers beating up on the Ravens the previous week. I made the point earlier about the Eagles having an easy road because the way they beat up on the Red Tails. Commanders the previous week. I think that applies here. And also, you and I both know that Jimmy is going to want that revenge on Johnny in the Harbaugh Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Am I brave enough to pick the Chargers? No, I am not. Give me the Ravens and Lamar Demetrius Jackson MVP candidate in that one. And that'll do it for this edition of the picks here on the Student of the Game. With that in mind, Donnie Dox, tell the world where you can be found, my friend.
All right, guys. So you can find me on X and Instagram. Same exact handle, both places. Don Documents 407. I love to interact with anyone who wants to talk to me. DMs are always open. You know, we can talk shop, we can talk ball. I look forward to hearing from any one of you. And thank you for the follows in advance and for tuning into my coverage.
Yeah, with all that being said, listen, you're the correct age. It may not matter as much, but be careful going out there in public and telling people you're on X. I'm Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, as well as Threads and Instagram at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a Student of the Game. Check out my writings with Fans First Sports Network covering the Orlando Magic and the Jacksonville Jaguars, not to mention the Duval Dive. Special thanks again, by the way, to Jamal St. Cyr for jumping in to the show for my buddy, the strep-throated currently, Travis D. Holmes of Big Cat Country. That was a fun time. Make sure you check that out. Like and subscribe to the Duval Dive as well. And then, of course, my work with the Black and Gold Banneret, along with this guy, covering UCF football and basketball, men's and women's. I do have an article on Darius Johnson coming out. Very interesting how his development matched the development of that basketball program. So make sure you check that out if you're a fan of college basketball. Plus, the Night Shift Live will be in effect after the West Virginia game, where the Knights will do battle with the Mountaineers. We'll see if they can keep their family barely fed as they fight for playoff eligibility. That's right. That was a Beverly Hillbillies reference, Don Strouble. I don't know if you got that. But make sure you check out also the Night Class article to evaluate the Knights' performance. And then, of course, the blackandgoldbanneret.com is where you will find that. I think that's all of it, because we're on the Student of the Game podcast. I don't need to plug that directly. And if you haven't yet, go to the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel and check out the weekly edition of the Night Shift podcast, where you could see this guy, Donnie Dox, and other members of the team break down UCF sport in the best way that it's done. So, for my good friend Donnie Dox, this is Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.